Karen refused me the bathroom. Pilot's announcement humiliated her mid-flight. I never imagined a simple flight would turn into the most unforgettable public humiliation I'd ever seen, but here we are. It all began when I boarded a cross-country flight after a long layover. I was already exhausted from delays, security checks, and running through the terminal. By the time I got to my seat, my stomach was already uncomfortable, and I knew I'd probably need to use the bathroom sooner rather than later. The flight wasn't full yet, so people were still getting settled, putting bags up, switching seats with family members. That typical pre-flight chaos. And then, there she came, the type of person you can spot without a single word exchanged. Perfectly ironed, but aggressively loud floral sweater. Sunglasses still on inside the plane. Extremely large handbag hitting everyone in the aisle as she walked. A full power Karen. She sat directly in the aisle seat next to me. I offered a polite smile. She responded with a dismissive glance that said, "Don't talk to me." I thought, fine, no problem. I just wanted a peaceful flight. But peace clearly wasn't on the flight plan. 2. The plane took off smoothly. And about 20 minutes in, the turbulence warning came on. The seatbelt light blinked overhead, and the captain announced that everyone needed to remain seated. That's around the exact time my stomach decided to turn into a washing machine filled with regrets and airport sandwiches. I tried to breathe through it, thinking I could wait. But nope, nature was not waiting. I leaned slightly toward Karen and politely said, "Excuse me, I really need to get to the bathroom." She didn't even look at me. She simply held up a finger like I was some interruption to her existence. Then she said, loudly and slowly, like speaking to a child, "Can't you see the seatbelt light is on? We're not moving." I explained that I understood, but it was an urgent situation. She rolled her eyes dramatically and said, "Well, maybe you should have gone before getting on the plane. That's not my problem. You stay seated." Her voice carried enough for several nearby passengers to hear. Embarrassment flushed through me, but the situation was becoming critical. I tried again, even softer and more desperate. But she snapped, louder this time. "No, sit down." And she physically angled her body, and elbows outward, like she was barricading the aisle. The passengers around us were now watching, but no one said anything. I was stuck. The flight attendant walked by, and I tried to catch her attention. But Karen extended her arm to block me and said to the attendant, "He is trying to get up during turbulence. Can you remind him of safety rules?" The flight attendant gave me an apologetic look, but regulations were regulations. "Sir, please remain seated until the light turns off." I nodded, but inside I was panicking. I tried everything to distract myself. Deep breaths, counting, clenching, but nothing was working. Karen kept giving me smug little side glances, like she was proud of herself, enjoying control. Then, to make the situation worse, she began talking loudly to the passenger across the aisle, completely bragging about how people today have no manners or patience and think the world revolves around them. She was talking about me as if I wasn't sitting right there. I could feel heat rising behind my eyes. The humiliation, the discomfort, the pain, it was a nightmare. The turbulence continued longer than usual, dragging on and on. I could feel the entire cabin waiting for the moment when the seatbelt light would finally turn off, and I prayed it would happen before I had an actual medical emergency. Finally, the light dinged off. I exhaled with relief and immediately started to stand, only for Karen to shove her elbow out again, blocking me deliberately. "I'll go first," she declared. She didn't need the bathroom. She just wanted to prove she had power. I couldn't even speak. I just stared at her, stunned at how petty someone could be. She took her sweet time standing up, adjusting her hair, her sweater, her bag, stretching like she was preparing for yoga, while I was nearly shaking. When she finally walked down the aisle, I followed as fast as I could. But the line for the bathroom had already formed, because the turbulence had held everyone inside their seats. I waited, trying not to panic. Karen got to the front of the line and, of course, began chatting with the next person, like she had all the time in the world. I felt myself trembling, sweating, and the entire situation had passed embarrassing and gone into health emergency. But then, something unexpected happened. The flight attendant from earlier noticed my condition and pulled me aside. "Sir, are you all right?" she asked, genuinely concerned. I explained what had happened, not angrily, just tired, clearly in distress. She frowned, her eyes narrowing, and said, "Wait here." The flight attendant spoke quietly to another crew member, and they both nodded. Then she walked straight past the line, right to the cockpit door. Within seconds, the captain's voice came over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. We have a passenger who is experiencing a medical urgency and must be given immediate access to the lavatory. If you are currently standing in line, please return to your seats to allow this individual priority access. Thank you for your cooperation." The entire cabin turned to look. Karen whipped around, confused at first. Then she saw me. Her expression went from shock to rage instantly. She started arguing with the flight attendant, loudly insisting she was first. She was waiting. She was following the rules, but the attendant stayed calm and firm. "Ma'am, please sit down. This is a medical priority situation." Karen tried again, louder. "He can wait. He just wants special treatment." And that's when it happened. The captain spoke again, voice slightly sharper this time. "Ma'am in the floral sweater near row 17. You are required to return to your seat immediately. Your noncompliance is delaying a medical situation." The entire plane went silent, and then small chuckles. Karen's face turned the color of a tomato. Her mouth was open, but no sound came out. She slowly walked back toward her seat, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. Every step she took was echoing with humiliation. Meanwhile, the line cleared instantly. The flight attendant guided me directly into the bathroom. I finally got relief, both physically and emotionally. When I came out, several passengers gave me sympathetic nods. A couple whispered, "Hope you're okay." And one older woman said softly, "People like her eventually embarrass themselves." And she was right. The plane had shifted. Nobody was afraid of Karen anymore. She was no longer the loud, controlling force in the cabin. She was just a person who had been told, by the captain himself, to sit down and stop acting, like the world owed her everything. I returned to my seat. Karen stared straight ahead, rigid, pretending I didn't exist. The silence between us was almost funny. I didn't need revenge. The universe had handled it for me. But the story didn't end there. When the plane was preparing for landing, the captain made one final announcement, thanking passengers for cooperating earlier during the medical situation, and added, "And thank you all for your patience, especially those who complied." The first time, the emphasis was crystal clear. Several passengers turned toward Karen again. Someone even muffled a laugh. Karen didn't say a single word. No dramatic sigh, no complaint, nothing. Just pure, simmering embarrassment. The moment we landed, she grabbed her bag and practically sprinted off the plane, pushing past people she previously scolded for doing the same thing. Funny how rules only apply when she's the one giving them. Meanwhile, the flight attendant from earlier tapped my shoulder and simply said, "Take care of yourself and don't worry. Situations like that don't go unnoticed." Her kindness meant more than I could express. I thanked her sincerely and stepped out into the airport feeling lighter. Not just physically, but emotionally too. So what did I learn? That sometimes the cruelest people in the room don't need you to fight them. They just need the right moment for the world to see them for who they really are. Karen tried to block me, humiliate me, and treat me like I didn't matter. But in the end, she was the one publicly corrected by the highest authority on the plane. Not because I argued, but because truth has a way of revealing itself. And let me tell you, watching her deflate in front of 150 passengers was better than any revenge plan I could have come up with. Sometimes justice isn't loud or dramatic. Sometimes justice is a captain saying, "Ma'am in the floral sweater, sit down." And sometimes that's all it takes.